to come up, step back and go, oh, silly me, I have no idea what's going to happen, so I'm just going to wait to see what happens instead of play this game with myself. So it's a matter of learning how to gain a little bit more control and have a little bit more choice of when we turn the computer on and when we turn it off. The mind does not need exercise, trust me. It's perfectly capable of having amazing thoughts whenever you want it. And it has a well of, of these things that you can draw on whenever you want. The key is whenever you want. If you're writing a book and you're in the middle of a storyline, you don't want to stop the storyline, it's coming. You want to write it, you want to think, you want to put it down. That's necessary. But most of the things we think about in any given day are useless. They're just superfluous. They have no quality and no purpose other than our mind loves to run. I talk about the mind being like a dog that loves to chew on a bone. And it just wants to sit there and chew and chew and chew. And it's exhausting, it's stressful. It's when I say anxiety, I mean more like a high level of tightness and stress. The anxiety of thinking causes us to wear ourselves out, makes us old before our time. And in a lot of cases makes us feel like, it doesn't make us feel very good because whether we notice it or not, we believe at some level that we're out of control because we can't control the very thing that's inside of our head. And that's not a good feeling. I mean, we try not to think about that because it's not a very pleasant thought. But it's like, I want to stop thinking right now. I can't. Oh my gosh, I'm not in control. Where do my thoughts come from? I'm at the mercy of my thoughts. I'm at the mercy of my emotions. Things could come at me from every direction and I have no control. I'm like floundering. I walk through this world and I'm afraid of this and afraid of that and confronted by this and confronted by that. And I need to do this and I need to do that. It's like we're pushed and pulled and yanked and shoved by our thoughts. And our thoughts, that's not why we have thought. That wasn't the reason that we've been given the grace to have thought. Our thoughts are a tool. Our minds are tools for us to use to figure out how to lead a better life, figure out how others can live better, how to contribute, how to give something to the world that's inside of us. It isn't there to drive us crazy. It's that we have never been taught how to selectively think. If you think back into your childhood and you think about all the input and stimulus you've had, you'll find that a lot of it was geared to thinking. It's like parents telling their kids not to, when they say don't do something, they mean don't think something, because thinking has to come before doing. So if they say you shouldn't do that, they mean, and what you actually hear on a subconscious level is don't think that. You're bad for thinking that. You're not bad for doing it, because that's the way children's minds work. Well, because children only do things because they think of doing them. We all probably do that to some degree, but kids have less of a filter because they don't have all the shoulds and shouldn'ts piled on top of ourselves. If we have a random thought as an adult that it'd be really cool to go walking down the street naked, well, there's a whole lot of social programming that's going to kick in and say, that's probably not the best thing to do. But if a child has that thought of, I'm going to take all my clothes off and run around the backyard naked, there's no reason in the world they're not going to do it because they don't know any better. Well, they don't know, no one's told them any different. That's a better phrase. And yet when they do that, and the parent comes out and goes, you're not supposed to do that. You can't run around naked. It's like the kid's thinking, why not? Well, we just don't do that. That's wrong. And it immediately goes back to, I thought it was right. She's telling me I'm wrong. Therefore, my thinking is wrong. And so from a very early age, we have been taught to have not a very positive relationship with our thinking. And then when let's say we're told those thoughts are wrong and then we have them again, we think, oh gosh, I'm being bad. I'm thinking something I shouldn't be thinking. And I can't help but think it because I want to do it. I'm out of control because I can't stop thinking that I want to do that, when in fact it's probably something that you should be doing as a kid. So I'm just saying that there's social programming that from a very early age has made us have a not so positive, not so skillful relationship with the way our minds work. Instead of teaching children how to meditate or how to mindfully observe things, how to use the brain instead of being subjugated to it, we've grown up with that, and we just, as we get older, we take it to the nth degree. And then at some point, we feel like, well, we're at a place where we could never go back from. I can't tell you how many people I've grown up with that told me things like, well, we just don't do things like that. We just don't. That's not right. That's not acceptable. And you go, yeah, but the family down the street does that. Well, we don't do that. These kind of messages are things that imprint very early on in us. And we're not raised to be free thinkers, that's for sure. We're raised to do exactly what we're told, even though it's contrary to what we want to do. And we're forced into a way of acting and thinking that is unnatural to the way our minds normally work. All that being said, that's fine. I mean, that is the way we are. That's how we were raised. It's too late. It's too late to go back and change that then, but we do have an opportunity to change it now. If we understand those things, if we notice those things in us, and I use lots of examples because I don't know what everybody's backgrounds are, and I don't know how they've been raised. So I throw out 10 different scenarios because I'm hoping one of them is very close to something that you might have experienced yourself. So, I just keep throwing things out until I see people's face light up. It's like, oh yeah, okay, they got that one, they got that one, they got that one. But the idea here is that when we develop a new skill, which in Buddhism is called mindfulness, and when I do talks like this to people that don't study Buddhism, I like to turn it into noticing, because that makes more sense to most people. Mindfulness has become a throwaway word. A throwaway word. It's used everywhere now. It's used on Wall Street. It's used in corporate America, being mindful of this, mindful of that. It's just a word that doesn't mean a whole lot unless you study what it means. But noticing is something I think we all know how to notice something. It's like, well, did you notice that bird on the branch over there? Or did you notice that there's a puddle on the ground? Or did you notice there's a stain on your shirt? No, and that's what I'm talking about. Noticing is simply it's very simple. It's simply bringing your widespread attention to a single point. It's like, oh, there's a spot on my pants. I could have gone all day and never noticed that until I focused all my attention on that piece of my clothing, and there's a spot there. That's all noticing is. Noticing is bringing our awareness from a broad view to a very narrow view for the purpose of understanding something that's going on. And then we broaden our view back out. I mean, we can't be mindful or be in that intense noticing at every moment of the day, or we'd run into walls and we'd drive off the road. But to develop the ability to single focus our minds onto something that's important to us brings insight and brings clarity to things that we wouldn't otherwise be aware of or notice. So one of the things that I again, try and sort of focus on some of these discussions we have is to take that home as kind of a little exercise and just play with it and see if it changes things in your life at all. It may not. It did for me, but that doesn't mean it will for you. Or you may find that it takes you in another direction. All I'm asking you to do is look inside a little bit, a little more than we normally do. Because we tend to focus on the outside much more than we do on the inside, because we don't understand the inside most of the time. What's going on is, for most of us, not easy to figure out what's going on. It's like when I look at how I think or how I feel or why do I have this or why do I do that, most of the answers that come back is I don't know. I don't know why I do that. But that's sort of a cop-out. That's sort of like saying, I looked a little bit and I didn't say anything, so I don't know. Spend some time pick something that is meaningful to you. Pick something that is not the worst thing you can think of in yourself, but sort of in the middle. Because if you try and attack the big things first, like if you have phobias or if you have something that is, you're a certain kind of person most of the time, and you really don't like that and you'd like to change that, well, it's really hard to attack the big things first. It's better to play with the little things so you're not so emotionally involved. But just notice things that, if you're walking down the road and you have an emotion about something, repulsion, attraction, judgment, just take a moment and go, where'd that come from? What was I thinking about just before I felt that? What were the words that were going through my head? And if you don't remember, tell yourself, well, next time I'm going to try and notice what the thought was. And then you'll start to see these connections of, oh, I was thinking such and such. And I don't really actually believe that. It's weird. A lot of the things we think we don't believe. They're stories that we've been taught by others, or they're stories that we've heard, or they're stories that are put in there by associating with people who we want to be like. That's one of the weird ones to me, is that we will take on the traits, attributes, thoughts, and thought patterns of those we admire.